Hi ladies and gentlemen, so we're taking a look at 2.6 today, the quadratic formula. So we've talked about three methods for solving quadratic functions, and now this is going to be our final method, the quadratic formula. I feel like you've probably heard of this before, and if not, then you have to make sure you ask Mr. Brasser about the bouncing brasser with the quadratic formula. He would love to show you. It's his thing, and it's something he's known for, so make sure you ask. All right, so quadratic formula, we're going to know and apply it to solve quadratic functions. That's our main objective for today. So starting up, we have this warm-up. We want to evaluate b squared minus 4ac. The goal is to use a little bit of mental math here and see if you can do it without a calculator. So take some time, see if you can figure it out, and press play to see the answer. All right, so you should have already had this done. So what we're using here is b squared minus 4ac, and we're just plugging these numbers in. The value they give us for a and the value they give us for b and number 1 is 7. So we're going to take, let's not write in highlighter, 7 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 5. 7 squared is 49 minus 4 times 2 is 8, and times 5 is 40. 49 minus 40 is 9. Looking at the next one, 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3. We get 9 minus a negative 12, which is the same thing as adding 12, and that gives us 21. So what is the quadratic formula? The really nice thing is the quadratic formula is so useful and so versatile for quadratic functions. We can use it to solve any quadratic function, whether it's a real numbered solution or an imaginary number solution, which we haven't gotten there yet. That'll be the next unit. But it's really nice that we can use it for everything. And here it is. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. I really want to emphasize, because the number one mistake students make with the quadratic formula every single year is they forget that that division bar is all the way across the negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Whew. That's a lot, I know. But please be mindful of that fraction bar. Sometimes we get a little bit relaxed and we forget to extend it all the way across, and then we're taking an assessment or doing homework and we're reading what we write and we're solving what we write down, but we don't have that fraction bar all the way across and we don't divide properly. So be careful. So let's keep that quadratic formula handy when we go through and find the roots, or in other words, the zeros, or in other words, solve, or in other words, where does this quadratic function cross the x-axis for this following problem. So our quadratic formula, to remind ourselves, is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Well, in order to use this formula, we need to know, what is a, b, and c? Well, a is 3, b is negative 9, and c is negative 2. So plugging this in, we get x equals negative b. Well, b is negative 9, so I get negative of a negative 9. That's really just positive 9, all right? Plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's negative 9 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 2, all divided by 2 times a, which is 3. So I have 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 minus 4 times 3 times negative 2, which is negative 24, all divided by 6. Continuing to simplify a little bit, I get 9 plus or minus the square root of, 81 minus negative 24 is 105, all over 6. Square root of 105, you're in luck. That cannot be simplified down, and that's our answer. You might be wondering, why can't I just type this in my calculator? Because you're going to get a decimal, and we don't like decimals. We want to stay exact. All right? So that's where we're going to end this with quadratic formula for this problem, because there's really not much more we can do to simplify. That 105 is stuck inside the square root, and there's nothing we can do to simplify that down, so this is how we leave our answer. Let's take a look at example 2, and if you want, go ahead and give a try on your own with applying the quadratic function here. All right, so applying the quadratic formula, we will get x equals negative b, which is 7, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 7 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times b, which is negative 18, all divided by 2 times a, which is 1. Starting to simplify down, I get negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus, oh goodness gracious, let's see here. I actually didn't do that. So broken up, let's see, 4 times 18, so that would be minus a negative 72, all divided by 2. So we get negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 121, all divided by 2. Now, the square root of 121 does simplify down. So I have negative 7 plus or minus 11 over 2, because the square root of 121 is 11. So I'm going to get two whole numbered answers here, because I have negative 7 plus 11 divided by 2. Well, that gives me 2. Then I have negative 7 minus 11 divided by 2, and that gives me negative 9. So in that last problem, or first problem we did of this lesson, we left it in that square root form because there was no simplifying we could do. In this problem, though, there was. Square root of 121 is 11. So then I had to go through and actually figure out the specific values that we get when we take negative 7 plus 11 over 2 and negative 7 minus 11 over 2. Now be careful if you're typing everything in the calculator and you're not getting the same answers as me. That might be because you're forgetting to put your parentheses around the numerator, and then your calculator is not subtracting and adding and dividing it correctly. So just be careful with that.